For 10 seconds, imagine this. A narrow dirt road in northern France. Summer, 1944. A column of American Shermans rolls forward, engines loud, dust hanging in the air. Then someone yells a single word over the radio. Tiger. Engines hesitate. Turrets slow. Cruise grip controls harder than training ever taught them to. Some tanks stop altogether, not because they have been hit, not because they see the enemy, but because the name alone is enough. That reaction did not come from steel or firepower alone. It came from fear. Carefully built, carefully spread, and rarely questioned. The Tiger tank was not just a weapon. It was an idea. And like most ideas in war, it grew far larger than reality. This is not the story of a miracle machine. It is the story of how a tank became a legend, why that legend terrified soldiers across Europe, and what actually happened when myth met the mathematics of war. The Tiger Eye did not appear suddenly on the battlefield like a monster from the fog. It was born out of panic. In 1941, when German forces invaded the Soviet Union, they encountered something they did not expect. Soviet T-34-7 and KV-1s absorbed shells that should have killed them. German anti-tank guns failed. Panzer crews reported enemy tanks advancing through fire as if immune. The shock ran straight up the German command chain. Within months, the order was clear. Germany needed a breakthrough, something heavier, something dominant, something that could restore psychological superiority as much as tactical control. What emerged was the Panzerkampfwagen, the 6th Tiger. 56 tons of steel. Armor thick enough to shrug off most Allied guns at range. An 88 mm gun derived from the famous Flak 36 anti-aircraft cannon, already feared for its killing power. On paper, the Tiger looked unstoppable, and in very specific conditions, it was. Early Tiger deployments in late 1942 and early 1943 shocked Allied units. At Leningrad, in Tunisia, and later at Kursk, Tigers destroyed enemy tanks at distances that felt unreal to crews on the receiving end. Allied tankers learned quickly that frontal engagement was suicide. Reports spread faster than facts. Our shells bounce off. Nothing can penetrate it. One Tiger wiped out an entire platoon. Some of those stories were true. Many were exaggerated. None were harmless. German propaganda leaned into it immediately. Newsreels framed Tigers as invincible guardians of the Reich. Tank commanders like Michael Whitman were elevated into legends, their kill counts repeated without context. The message was simple. Germany still possessed technological destiny. The Allies absorbed the message differently. Intelligence officers analyzed captured reports. Tank crews heard rumors in bivouacs and mess tents. Manuals warned of the Tiger's gun, its armor, its range. Even when Allied forces outnumbered Tigers 10-1, crews hesitated. Fear changes behavior long before it changes outcomes. But fear does not refuel engines. Fear does not replace spare parts. Fear does not shorten supply lines. Behind the legend, the Tiger was an engineering compromise pushed to its limits. It was slow. It consumed fuel at a rate Germany could no longer sustain. Its interleaved road wheels clogged with mud and ice. Its transmission failed often under combat stress. Recovery was a nightmare. A disabled Tiger was often destroyed by its own crew simply because towing it was impossible. And most importantly, there were never enough of them. Germany built just over 1,300 Tiger I tanks during the entire war. The United States produced nearly 50,000 Shermans. The Soviet Union produced more than 80,000 T-34. No amount of individual battlefield dominance can overcome arithmetic on that scale. Yet the myth persisted, because myths do not need to win wars. They only need to shape decisions. Tiger crews were often elite, well-trained, and cautious. They fought defensively, from prepared positions, using range and terrain. When those conditions held, Tigers were lethal. When they did not, the illusion cracked fast. Flanking shots, air attacks, artillery, mechanical failure, and simple attrition killed more tigers than enemy tank fire ever did. By 1944, Allied doctrine had adapted. Tigers were no longer monsters. They were targets. Priority targets, yes. Dangerous ones, absolutely, but understood. The tiger never ruled the battlefield. It haunted it, and haunting is sometimes enough. The first real test of the tiger outside the Eastern Front did not come in the frozen forests of Russia. It came under a bright North African sun. In late 1942, as Allied forces landed in Operation Torch, German units rushed tigers into Tunisia. The desert was supposed to be ideal terrain. Long sightlines, hard ground, space to exploit the 80 guns range. On paper, this was where the tiger should dominate completely. At first, it did. British and American tanks learned quickly that engaging head-on was fatal. At ranges beyond a kilometer, tigers destroyed Shermans and Valentines before Allied gunners could even see muzzle flashes. Reports from Tunisia echoed across Allied commands. Our tanks are outmatched, armor ineffective, engagement avoided whenever possible. But Tunisia also revealed something Germany could not hide. The tiger broke down. Constantly. Sand infiltrated everything. Engines overheated. Transmissions failed. Recovery vehicles could not keep up. Fuel shortages forced tigers to be abandoned intact, later studied by Allied engineers who were surprised not by perfection, but by fragility. Captured tigers told a different story than battlefield rumor. Armor thickness was impressive, but not magical. Side and rear plates were vulnerable. The gun was devastating, but slow to traverse. Optics were excellent, but not unique. This was not a weapon from the future. It was an expensive machine built on the edge of Germany's industrial capacity. Then came Kursk. In July 1943, Germany launched its last major offensive in the east. Operation Citadel was designed around armored shock. Panthers and Tigers would break Soviet defenses, encircle massive forces, and restore initiative. Tigers were concentrated in heavy battalions, deployed carefully, protected obsessively. They advanced into the most heavily prepared defensive system in military history. Soviet minefields were layered in depth. Artillery was pre-registered. Anti-tank guns were concealed and numerous. Infantry carried anti-tank rifles, grenades, and explosives. Tigers advanced slowly, clearing lanes, absorbing fire, killing dozens of Soviet tanks in direct engagements. And still, the offensive failed. Not because tigers were useless, but because they were insufficient. Mechanical losses mounted faster than combat losses. Panthers failed in greater numbers, but tigers were not immune. When a tiger broke down under fire, recovery crews often could not reach it. Soviet artillery zeroed in. Crews destroyed their own tanks rather than let them be captured. By the end of Kursk, tigers had inflicted enormous damage. They had also failed to achieve strategic effect. Soviet production replaced losses within weeks. German heavy tank battalions took months to recover. This was the moment when the tiger myth began to drift away from reality. Allied intelligence noticed the pattern. Tigers appeared in small numbers, fought hard, then vanished. Not because they were destroyed, but because they were withdrawn, immobilized, or out of fuel. The battlefield was not being dominated, it was being visited. Meanwhile, the German high command doubled down. Instead of simplifying production, they pursued complexity. New variants, heavier armor, more specialized units. The Tiger II, even heavier, even more demanding, followed the same path toward diminishing returns. The Allies, in contrast, learned something brutal and effective. You do not need to outmatch a tiger. You need to outlast it. Aircraft hunted them from above. Artillery pinned them down. Infantry marked their positions. Tanks flanked when possible, avoided when not. A tiger forced caution, not paralysis. Fear was still present, but it was now managed. By late 1943, Allied crews no longer froze at the word tiger. They adjusted tactics, smoke screens, coordinated fire, calling in air support. The monster had contours now, weaknesses, limits. The tiger's greatest strength, its aura, was fading. And war, once stripped of mystery, becomes accounting. By the time Allied forces landed in Normandy in June 1944, the tiger's reputation arrived before it did. German heavy tank battalions were positioned as a fire brigade, held back from the beaches, committed only when a breakthrough threatened. The idea was simple. A tiger did not need to destroy an invasion. It only needed to slow it, bleed it, and buy time. Time, however, was the one resource Germany no longer controlled. The Normandy battlefield was the opposite of what the tiger was designed for. Narrow roads, sunken lanes, bocage hedgerows that restricted movement and visibility. Engagement ranges collapsed from kilometers to hundreds of meters. Flanking became easier. Air cover became decisive. When tigers entered the fight, they were still deadly. At Villers Bocage, Michael Whitman's ambush destroyed a column of British armor in minutes. The incident spread instantly through Allied ranks. The legend flared again, briefly, like a dying star burning bright one last time. But Villers Bocage also revealed the trap of the myth. Whitman's tiger was later disabled and abandoned. Other tigers in Normandy were lost not to heroic tank duels, but to fighter bombers, artillery, and mechanical failure during retreat. Fuel shortages turned movement into risk. A tiger out of fuel was not a threat, it was a liability. Allied pilots learned to spot them. Distinctive silhouettes, wide tracks, slow movement. Once identified, they were marked and hunted. Rockets did not always destroy them outright, but they damaged tracks, optics, engines. Ground forces finished the job. The tiger's armor had never been designed to fight gravity, fragmentation, and precision air attack from above. Meanwhile, Allied industry flooded France with replacements. A destroyed Sherman was replaced in days. A lost tiger took weeks Germany did not have. Crews became irreplaceable faster than tanks. Veterans were killed, captured, or exhausted. By late summer 1944, tigers were fighting retreat actions, defensive stands, delaying maneuvers. Their role had reversed, from spearhead to shield, from terror weapon to last resort. On the Eastern Front, the story was harsher. Soviet forces adapted brutally. Massed artillery, tank destroyer ambushes, close-range assaults. Tigers still killed, but they died too. Often abandoned during retreats when bridges collapsed or fuel ran dry. The tiger did not fail because it was weak. It failed because it was alone. Modern war is not a duel. It is a system. The tiger was a masterpiece inserted into a collapsing system. It demanded resources Germany could not supply. Fuel, spare parts, transport, trained crews. Every tiger in the field represented dozens of trucks, mechanics, rail cars, and hours of factory labor. By 1945, many tigers never fired a shot. They were destroyed by their own crews during withdrawals. Perfect machines erased by absence, not defeat. And still, the legend survived. After the war, photographs told a selective story. Burned Shermans, towering tigers, kill counts repeated without context. The idea of German technological superiority fit neatly into post-war narratives. It explained defeat without moral reckoning. We lost because they outnumbered us, not because the system failed. The tiger became a symbol of fear, of engineering pride, of wasted potential. In reality, it was a powerful tool misused by circumstance. It was never meant to fight alone against time, industry, and the sky. The tiger tank did not win battles. It shaped emotions, and emotions in war are real weapons. When the war ended, the battlefield went silent. The myth did not. In museums, in books, in documentaries, the tiger stood frozen in time. Massive, intimidating, perfectly still, as if waiting for the next enemy to approach. Without smoke, without shortages, without retreat orders. History cleaned of friction. But war is friction. When historians stepped away from anecdotes and into archives, a colder picture emerged. German records showed that fewer than half of all Tiger losses came from direct enemy tank fire. The rest were written off as mechanical failure, abandonment, air attack, artillery damage, or deliberate destruction by their own crews. Tigers often arrived late, fought briefly, then disappeared again. Not destroyed. Exhausted, crew memoirs confirm it. Driving a Tiger was physically demanding. Steering required strength. Gear changes were punishing. Breakdowns were expected, not exceptional. A long road march could end a mission before combat began. The tank demanded constant attention, constant maintenance, constant fuel. In a shrinking Reich, that was a fatal appetite. Allied tank crews, meanwhile, remembered something else. They remembered fear, yes, but also confusion. Tigers were rare. Many Tiger sightings were Panthers, Panzer IVs, or even assault guns misidentified under stress. Post-war analysis revealed that Allied reports overcounted Tigers by several times. The monster seemed everywhere because soldiers expected it to be. Fear multiplies shadows. From a purely technical perspective, the Tiger was impressive but not revolutionary. Its gun was excellent, but similar calibers appeared elsewhere. Its armor was thick but unsloped and heavy. Its mobility was adequate, not exceptional. What made it stand out was not superiority across the board, but concentration of strength in a single platform. And concentration creates imbalance. Germany invested disproportionately in heavy tanks while neglecting logistics, recovery, and replacement capacity. The Allies invested in systems, standardization, repairability, training pipelines, air-ground coordination. One approach created legends. The other created victory. This is why the Tiger remains so compelling. It represents the seductive idea that brilliance can overcome reality, that a single, perfect solution can outweigh complexity, that fear itself can substitute for sustainability. In combat, Tigers could dominate moments. In war, moments are not enough. By 1945, the Tiger was irrelevant. Not because it had become weak, but because the world around it had moved on. Jets flew overhead. Artillery spoke in mass. Fuel dictated movement. Industry dictated outcome. The Tiger never understood that war had stopped asking for heroes. It asked for systems. And systems do not fear monsters. They absorb them. This is the reality behind the legend. The Tiger tank was not a lie. It was a truth taken out of context. A weapon optimized for a war that no longer existed by the time it mattered most. Fear made it famous. Myth made it immortal. Reality made it obsolete.